Right, we're going to make a start on the talk this morning. I just want to say a massive thank you all for coming in and taking the time to learn about phonics at Brighton College. We really appreciate your support in coming in person and online. Today, we're just going to be exploring how we teach phonics at Brighton College, how you can support this at home, and hopefully today you can just walk away with a really good understanding of what is phonics, how it's taught, and how you can support with all the language, the terminology, and just to make lifelong readers with us. So what is phonics? I know that we have been introduced to phonics maybe at an early stage in Brighton College, from reception, children are learning read, write, ink. But when you were younger, you might not have learnt phonics the way that we learn it in schools. So some terminology that I'm just going to go through as I might say it throughout the talk, and it might be also useful for you to use at home as the children use it in school, is a phoneme, and that is the actual sound that the letter makes. The grapheme is the letter itself. So when you were younger at school, you might have just learnt the grapheme like D, and then now we learn D is the phoneme sound. A digraph, you have vowel digraphs and consonant digraphs. This is just two sounds or three sounds being put together. If you have moved on to set 2 and set 3 sounds, you'll be familiar with sounds like O, blow the snow, sh. Those are two sounds making one sound as a digraph or trigraph. So yeah, today we're just going to recognize that the sounds make, the letters make sounds, and that the children are learning these phonemes to be able to decode words. So that's what it is. It's blending, it's decoding, it's using these skills then to go on and be able to access a wide range of, words, reading, and make, fluency and confidence throughout the years as they progress into the trickier words. So just some more language that we might use at school is blending. This is when you get three letters together like hat. They're using the phoneme sounds h, at. And then segmenting is where they're separating the word into like d, o, g, and blending is putting it all together. Okay, so our key focus when we're teaching at school is to make sure that they recognize the sounds, that they're familiar with all the set 1, set 2, and set 3 sounds to be able to then go on to blend and read and segment to spell. English is probably it's very difficult language to learn when you look at all the different letter combinations, and this just allows the children to, in a sense, kind of, it's like a game almost. They're coding a language, and once these foundational skills are taught in phonics, they go on to be fluent readers, they go on to access learning independently, and that's what we want to do at Brighton College. So at Brighton, we use read, write, ink. Read, write, ink consists of set 1, set 2, and set 3 sounds. At Brighton, a day-to-day lesson is 40 minutes. We have 4 lessons a week where children are building on fluency. Lessons are fast-paced. Every lesson is new, a new sound, and then recapping the sounds through some terminology that I'll introduce next: green words, red words, and alien words. Each lesson is consistent. They are always done the same, just to make sure that children are familiar with the run through of the lesson. This just makes sure that the entire journey through the phonics scheme is consistent. They know what's coming. It's a fun game for them because they know what to expect. So in early years, the children will be taught new sounds, set 1 sounds. They will go through these set 1 sounds, probably a new sound each lesson. This sound will then be put into a green word. They'll then use their blending skills and Fred talk, which I'll explain later, to put these together, to blend, to segment, and then they'll practice these quite quickly. They will then be introduced to, I think, about 1 red word at this age, maybe a very simple one. The, for example, a is a red word, and that will be taught in the lesson. And then they'll also be introduced to alien words, which is the sound that they're learning in a word that isn't in the English language, but it uses the core skills of blending and segmenting. So they're actually applying the sound and making sure that it's retained, and they can just tell the difference usually between a green word and a red an alien word. As they progress through year 1 and year 2, the lessons become, a bit not longer, but more is added into. They're doing more green words. The words are longer. They're introduced to a couple more red words. These are expected to be learnt. They're high frequency words or sight words. And so there is no way that they can blend these words. They just have to be taught by sight. So we try and use them and incorporate them as much as we can in a day-to-day lesson in English, in the language that we use around us in school. And we also then apply them in the later years to simple sentence structures that they'll be applying also their sound knowledge into. And then in year 2, the children will either be recapping some of the set sounds that they've learned in previous years, or moving on to the spelling scheme, which tackles the trickier spellings such as prefix rules, suffix rules, silent letters. Then they are on their way to becoming fluent independent readers and accessing learning by themselves. So, as I mentioned, we have the set 1 sounds, this and a. The green card is an example of a green word, which you can decode just using the sounds, blend it together. You can try and use your Fred fingers, which, let's go 3 fingers, and you go at, blend it together. You're making the word sat. So if you're using the grapheme word, which I think a lot of us were taught to learn with, like sat, you're doing S-A-T. It's really difficult. Children will not be able to access that independently, and it makes the learning a lot more tricky. So actually, just on that point, we try and avoid using alphabetic words initially. Obviously, we introduce it later on, but it can become a little bit confusing, especially for the early learners. So the sound progression, you can see the set 1 sounds is just the alphabet. It's taught in a certain order to make words that we can decode and the children can decode a bit earlier on. If we went in ABC, they're limited to the words that they can decode, like a simple consonant, vowel, consonant words. Then we go on to set 2 sounds and set 3 sounds, which are good examples of vowel digraphs or consonant digraphs that children are using to apply to, again, CVC words, or as they progress, longer multi-syllable words, which you'd be amazed when you see them be able to segment a word and decode certain parts and put it together. The joy on their face, the joy on our face, it's really rewarding, and the children really love it. It is like a game almost. And then at the bottom is an example of the red words. They're also called high frequency words and sight words. These words are introduced, like I said, throughout the scheme. We don't expect children to learn them all at once. It's just one of those ones that you have to learn explicitly. And so just to introduce, we've got Fred here. Fred is in every classroom. The children know him. Fred speaks only in segments, so he does not say the word for the children. An example I'll show you later, like sat, he would go sat. The children will go sat. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of terminology in phonics, and if at any point you're not sure on anything that I am, referring to, please just stop me and I'll go back and just give you an example of that. So pronunciation is very difficult. You might be looking at the set 1 sounds and, it's very confusing, especially if you learned it in a different way, or it's, not your first language, which is super common in international school. There are really helpful guides through the read writing program that we use. This will be also sent out to you guys, so all the links you'll have access to. But a helpful guide of the set 1 sounds is here, and we're just going to take this 2-minute video. But some of the sounds are what we call stretchy sounds, and some are bouncy sounds. So an example of a stretchy sound would be like So I'm not going m-at. I have to go m-at. It's how you would say it. You've broken it up, and it's a stretchy sound. And then the bouncy sounds are ot. They're quite like short sounds. So we'll just have a look here. Just kidding. We're going to have a look here. Where the power is coming. So yeah, if you familiarize yourself, no, we don't want that. If you familiarize yourself with the set one sounds, it really helps in being able to support your child decoding at home. You're not confusing them, they're not confused, so familiarizing yourself, it takes a while, but once you practice it as well with your child, it should become quite familiar. So a little activity for you guys is these sentences incorporate the set two sounds. These are all attempts by children at writing the sentence. Floppy, the dog, saw a big bone. And I'd just like you to take a look at them and have a think about which one you would be, happy with for the child using their sounds, blending and segmenting to make a sentence like that. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds, minutes to have a look at each sentence. Okay, so does anyone want to have a guess at which sentence, 1, 2, 3, or 4 is like a plausible attempt at using their sounds? 2? Any other guesses? Okay, so actually each sentence, which one, sorry? It's all of them. Surprise! Yeah, so these are all plausible attempts by a child in year 1, year 2, I think more year 2 to be using their sounds. This would be praised by a teacher. You can, if they were to read that out to you using the sounds, they are applying them amazingly. So why I've used this as an example is as a teacher, seeing one of those sentences and reflecting on it, I would then use one of the rhymes that I'll show you in a second, that, instead of or for saw, O-R, shut the door, you would say or yawn at dawn. So or yawn at dawn. And from their lessons, from their learning at school, they would then be able to self-correct, apply the AW sound to saw, and fix the sentence. And obviously, as time goes on, this is a trial and error. It's like the game of coding. They're using their sounds, they're familiarizing it into sentences, and it will become a fluent kind of skill that they will learn. So reading at Brighton College, books are matched with the Oxford OWL scheme at Brighton. So they start off in early years with picture books, and then they move up in difficulty with the digraphs and trigraphs, set 2 and set 3 sounds, hopefully following along as closely as we are teaching them. You might sometimes encounter a new sound, you can either address it or just move on. It's not life or death in that stage in the book. But yeah, as you guys move through the books, we encourage fluency, confidence, and comprehension. So you may all be familiar with Biff, Chip, and Kipper books. And I think as grown-ups, we also feel the same way about Biff, Chip, and Kipper books, that they can become quite monotonous. And as a child maybe brings home 2 books, 3 books a week, you know that story off by heart, and that is absolutely fine. And more importantly for the child, they have built fluency reading the story. What we ask then is, not to disengage from the book. It's now your chance to really push your child with the comprehension skills that we kind of look for once they build on their fluency. So at the front here, and you guys are more than welcome to take all these resources home with you. They're also available in the parent handbook for phonics. There are games and comprehension skills that you can just have ready for, conversations around the stories that you're reading. It may seem easy for the child, but when you kind of dig deeper into the comprehension, it's really helpful for teachers to have your notes down. They understood this, they could retrieve this. So a little example of using the comprehension skills, I don't know if you can read that, is, could you find all the short I sounds, all the bouncy I sounds in those 2 pages? And obviously we encourage about 15 minutes per day. If you spent 15 minutes on these 2 pages doing all these comprehension skills, that's more than what we could ask for. It's not necessarily about speed reading through the book. So another example would be, what word tells me where he put the can? What adjective describes the mop? And then some of the games that we encourage, at school, at home, is like, every time you read the red word he, can you do a star jump? You're making it like an interactive game with your child. We don't want to make reading monotonous and a chore. And we do really understand, days are long, they've got CCAs, and getting them to read at the end of the day can be quite, difficult. So using these different activities and games can really support in making, reading a fun activity for them. Okay, so just going on a little bit more with the comprehension skills that we look for at Brighton, we use Percy, and you guys might be familiar with the pelican mascot. So all of these are skills as well that you can look for when you're reading with your child: predicting, exploring, retelling, clarifying, and asking comprehension questions. I know a lot of early years readers with picture books, or even as you go into chapter books, predicting what the story is going to be about from the first page is such an important skill for the child. So just working on these with them is just as important as building fluency in the story. So just going to watch another short video on 10 things to think about when you're reading with your child at home. Hopefully it works. No.
Not open.
Oh.
Yeah, but down here, ready. Like,
Oh, that's my computer.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Sorry, bear with us. Maybe while Davina's finding the video, just some key points to take away from reading at home with your child is, reading daily. We really encourage making the sessions fun and short. Keeping the book, the planner, the flashcards ready. And there's, it's sad for us, it's sad for the child when you ask them to bring their flashcards in and they go, oh, we don't have them. It's really important that they see the priority in bringing these things in every day. We read with them, the TAs read with them. We use it for all sorts of things like communication with you on what they're learning at home. And anyway, hopefully this wants to. Thank you, Davina. So just off of the point at the end, if there is a book that your child genuinely is not enjoying, they're totally disengaged from, obviously we want to support that at home. So please just write a note in the planner. It shouldn't be a chore. Some other things that just to avoid doing at home is obviously comparing your child's reading level to other children. They're all developing at different times. We don't want them to feel pressured. I think anything that even as grown-ups we feel pressured to do, we withdraw. We don't really want to make it something that's fun for us. So just rewarding children for the little wins, making it enjoyable, as they said, is something that really helps the reading at home. So the writing and spelling development, again, this is not necessarily a set framework that works for every child. Sorry. So please do not feel again that like they should be at this level at this point exactly. They're, moving at their own pace. We are with them all the time, unless we are contacting you about something that we feel could be improved or they just need some extra support in. This is just the framework that we move through in school. So through reception, the children are learning the set one sounds. Again, we avoid using the letter sounds just to avoid confusing them. Children are then using Fred Talk to blend simple CVC words. And then by the end of reception, they understand the set one sounds and should know about 10 digraphs, which would be the simple ones, sh and ch, like those kind of ones. By year one, they're then moving through set one, set two, and some of set three. By the end of year one, ideally, they would have finished the set three sounds. Obviously, in year one, that is a huge amount for them to learn and apply. So they might be put into different groups. They're learning at their own pace, and they're applying them at their own, pace. And we just make sure we're supporting them through that. So just a couple of videos of what reception learning looks like. I think you can open it. It's also on the computer as well. Maybe you go on to, yeah. Oh no.
We might just have to.
We might leave that.
That one.
It is just a simple example of what they're going to be doing every day, blending, applying the new sounds. And then the other video is of a year two, year one children doing reading together in phonics. They're using their finger to follow the words throughout, which is a really helpful thing. Another thing is as they progress through the years, you'll get multi-syllable words. Segmenting then becomes really important, and the children do learn to cover parts of the word to be able to blend the first bit, blend the second bit, and put them together. And then, sorry, just really quickly, and then in year two, they apply the spelling rules and become hopefully more fluent and confident readers. So supporting spelling and phonics at home, I'm sure we've all been told this, that, reading and spelling really go hand in hand. If you have a confident and a fluent reader, their spelling and their vocabulary really is elevated. It's really important for them to, have a wide range of books that they're interested in so they can use this new language in their own writing. Again, the links to Read Write Inc. or Oxford OWL, they have amazing free resources that you can use to practice spellings at home. Of course, we send out spellings each week where you can apply this to, using it in a simple sentence and making sure that they are maybe recapping some of their words, and you can use their flashcards if you guys have all got those now at home to see in real time what they're learning at school, to recap what they're learning, and to have discussions with them about it and apply it to their spellings. Something that I would like to mention is that making sure that children are using their proper writing styles at home as in school. This is really important to making sure that the letters are formed properly. This just helps with pace as they carry on through year two and start precursive, is making sure that they have a tripod pencil grip, they're sat at a table when they're practicing their spellings. It just fosters quite like a good, routine for their writing style. Okay, and then moving on to how you guys support at home with spellings. We really want to stress that, we are the teachers. We don't want to put that pressure on you guys that you're the teachers, but we just hope that you can do what you do best, and that support them with encouragement, love, and just really foster that at home. Because the difference when children are confident in their spellings, when they're confident in what they're learning at school, it could just be a set one sound is, a world of difference to how they are acting in the classroom. So it's really helpful, and we really appreciate when you guys, foster the love for learning at home. One of the games that I really like, again, all of these are here for you to take home, put on the fridge, use them as much as you want, is a spelling bingo. It could be just crossing one off and doing an at-home reward. So writing in rainbow letters, one time writing in dotty letters. I think a lot of us are familiar with look, cover, write, check. And it works for some children. Look, cover, write it again, and then check your work. I think it was quite a common way I was taught to learn my spellings, but it can become monotonous again. And we just really want to encourage them to enjoy this time with you, enjoy learning this language, and make it a fun experience. Some other activities that I enjoy with the kids is drawing the image to associate with the word. Like down here, if you have eagle eyesight, monarchy, they've drawn some crowns and stuff around the word, helping memorize that. And then another one that I really enjoy is mnemonics, learning longer words like because. I still remember from school, big elephants, can't always use small exits. Just really helpful for the learning of, longer words. And so, yes, what is available for you guys? Obviously, the class teachers, the phonics teachers are always available and really willing to help. We've got tons of resources for you guys to use at home to support with your understanding of what phonics is. Just over here, we've got the flashcards that are being updated every week. They're going home with a new sound in set 1, set 2, or set 3. We're just hoping like on the bus, on the train, you can just flip through these. It's an easy and accessible way that you can practice the sounds. And then through that, you're noticing things in the grocery store. You're seeing words that are decodable for them and just applying it to everyday life, making sure that it's like a really language-rich environment. Another thing that you can take away is a phoneme frame, which is the odd-looking window thing, which it just corresponds with Fred Talks. So a word like shop, if you want to have a think about how many fingers or how many frames you would use for that word, you would put it into the 3-frame one as sh is the digraph, op, and they're able to blend that, write that underneath, and apply that in a more visual way. So same as Fred Fingers, or you might hear it as dots and dashes. You put the dash underneath a digraph or a trigraph. Just on the flashcards, because they're given as we go along and as we're learning, if you guys want to get a head start on the rhymes of the set 1 sounds, that's also there for you guys to take. Like Maisie, mountain, mountain is what we use to write an M. The children will know how that is formed. It's ingrained in their heads. Around the apple, up the leaf, down the leaf is another rhyme that we use for them. So it's just really helpful, again, the recall of it and just, self-correcting and supporting them with that. The PowerPoint will be sent out. So another couple of useful links is the Oxford Owl Phonics Guide that has many videos for parent support. And then there's actually an interactive sound chart, which works as flashcards if you wanted to do that at home with your child as well. Again, no pressure to be teachers at home. That's our job. What we just really support is, the same use of vocabulary, you guys taking an interest in what they're learning, building lifelong readers. And yeah, that's all we can really ask for you guys. And yeah, just some key takeaways for today. Again, every child progresses at their own pace. Cannot stress this enough. We do not want you to feel pressure on where your child is at. We are doing our utmost to support them through CCAs, challenge and support interventions. We read with them daily, weekly with TAs and you know, myself, other teachers, and we just really want them to feel confident and like they can succeed on their learning journey at school, and it's not a comparative thing. Keep it relaxed and fun. We want at home and at school to be a really exciting time for them learning phonics and entering this whole world of reading and experiencing this new, you know, vocabulary, and everything is just so enjoyable for them at this stage. Yeah, avoid pressure at home and read together daily. So any questions? I can go back on any slides or support in any other way. Or
We have
just
a question online, actually.
fabulous.
So if you have any tips on how to read with your child with a younger child present too, how to make it interesting for both would be all ears.
Oh my gosh. So that is really lovely that, you know, you're reading all together. Many of the children have siblings. And so really encouraging the storyteller voice, my turn, your turn. You know, you don't want them to feel too much pressure. But what we really encourage is also the comprehension of what they're reading. So even if it's one sentence that they're reading aloud to you or their siblings, you know, you do it in a robot voice, they do it in a robot voice, and then even the little one can also just parrot the sentence. Again, there's so many resources for lots of different kind of reading games you can do. There's green light, red light, where one of the children could be reading, you say red light, they have to stop, do an activity, do a star jump, just make it as fun as you could possibly think of. Obviously, different activities will work better. You might have the energy levels through the roof one day, you might have the energy levels really low. So just use all these different ideas, trial and error it, see what works best for you and your family. For maths, we can speak to Miss Lil, and
Yes.
you can come up with some maths as well. And then last one. So the reading and phonics CCAs, there's 2 different ones, and I really encourage if you would like your child to participate in one of them. We've just started it this year. Just pop me an email and we can discuss which CCA would be better suited for them. But yeah, I think they do so much already, so don't feel pressure to join a CCA that does even more. Obviously, it's just, you know, they go at their own pace. We want them to enjoy it. And yeah, pop me an email if you have any question regarding CCAs. Yeah.
How do you approach that?
I think making sure that, you know, praise is obviously pivotal in that situation, in the sense that the small wins are big wins for them. They obviously can see, especially as they get older, you know, the children's levels around them. And so it is quite natural for children to compare for themselves, but making sure your language at home, you know, you're not pushing them beyond their means. They're not feeling pressured and stressed, and anything that we can do in school to support that, you know, we will try and do and make sure that that isn't so apparent. But I think, yeah, naturally, as they get older, it can become a little bit trickier, but I think just stressing that everyone's on their own learning journey. And really with phonics, it hopefully will just kind of click and be applied at whatever pace they're comfortable with.
Yeah, they have a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
It either happens, it can happen in reception, can happen
Yeah.
in year 1, it can happen in year 2, it can happen in year 4. So it just happens that they all will learn to read. It just different points, and having those open conversations about not worrying at what stage they're at and just focusing on themselves, I think is really, really important.
An example, like if they're reading and they'll say, "Oh, this person's so much ahead of me. I don't feel like I'm doing well," or anything. You can have that conversation where you're saying, you know, everyone's doing great, and you're doing great. Is there anything else that you would say to install or enforce